Okay, I want you to think about something for a second. What if everything we call modern knowledge is really just a shadow of what humanity once knew? What if the single greatest mistake in our entire history wasn't a war, wasn't a weapon, but a fire? You know, asking that one question, it really changes everything. Because today, we're going to go exploring for a ghost, the ghost of lost knowledge. And we're going to see how it still haunts the world we're living in right now. So, to really understand this ghost, we've got to travel back in time, way back, more than 2,000 years ago. We're going to a place that held the answers to questions we are still asking today. This is the story of the Library of Alexandria and, well, the future that vanished right along with it. And this, right here, this is the entire point. See, we didn't just lose some gold or a piece of land or even some dusty old building. We lost answers. We lost this incredible head start on the future, a head start that we are still scrambling to catch up to. So what exactly was this place that held our lost future? It's so easy to just picture a quiet building full of scrolls, but that doesn't even come close. You have to understand, in a world with no fiber optics, no satellites, this library was humanity's central server. It was the internet. I mean, just think about that phrase for a second. The brain of the entire ancient world. And its mission wasn't just, ambitious. People at the time saw it as downright dangerous. Their goal? To gather every single piece of human knowledge from every culture on Earth and put it all under one roof. And their methods were, let's just say, aggressive. This wasn't some passive collection or you wait for donations. No, they actively hunted for knowledge. Just imagine this. Your ship docks in Alexandria's harbor. Officials come on board, but they're not looking for taxes. They're looking for books. They literally seize your original scrolls, they pay a scribe to make a perfect copy, and then they hand the copy back to you. They kept the original. It was like they were centralizing the world's information by force. And we're not talking about primitive stuff here. This was powerful knowledge. We're talking about really complex mathematics, star charts that mapped out constellations we can't even see anymore. And get this, the lost works of inventors who had actually drawn up blueprints for steam-powered devices 2,000 years before the Industrial Revolution even happened. They had already calculated the circumference of the Earth with what was, frankly, terrifying accuracy. Every single piece of that knowledge, every blueprint, every calculation, every forgotten map of the stars is just gone. And what was written on all those scrolls has been replaced by, well, silence. So, how in the world does something like this happen? How does the brain of the entire world just get wiped clean? Well, the popular story, the one we all sort of know, is that there was this one big catastrophic fire. But the reality is so much more chilling than that. You see, this is where the story we think we know completely splits from the truth. The myth is simple. One tragic accident, one big fire. But the reality is, this wasn't an accident. The knowledge in the library wasn't just lost. It was actively, deliberately erased. It was a slow, painful death over centuries. First, constant wars chipped away at the collection. Then came the official decrees from rulers, orders that led to purges of anything considered unacceptable knowledge. And finally, the most insidious killer of them all, just simple neglect. A slow forgetting, all of it driven by a fear that some ideas were just too dangerous to be allowed to exist. So why? Why was this knowledge seen as such a threat? Well, it's simple really. Knowledge always questions authority. It encourages people to think in new ways. And powerful institutions all throughout history have always been terrified of questions they can't control. So, yeah, that's the dark reality of how it was all lost. But now let's completely shift gears for a minute. Let's try to imagine a different history. Let's talk about the future that vanished right alongside all of those scrolls. Let's just ask that huge, pivotal question. What if the library had never fallen? What if all that incredible knowledge had been protected and expanded on century after century in one long, unbroken chain of discovery? Seriously, just try to picture what that would even look like. A world where the bridge of knowledge is never broken, where humanity doesn't have to keep rediscovering things over and over again. a world that never had to hit the hard reset button on progress. In that alternate reality, science is just this smooth upward curve. Technology evolves without these long, dark gaps of forgotten knowledge. Instead of us having to dig through the dirt for little fragments of truth, we'd be standing on a foundation of it. You have to wonder, right? In that world, would the Dark Ages have been just a brief, dark chapter instead of an entire thousand-year era? Would things like flight and electricity and modern medicine be considered ancient history? Would we still be looking up at the stars asking if we're alone in the universe, or would we already know the answer? But that world, it's a ghost. It isn't our reality. And that brings us crashing right back down to Earth, to a much more uncomfortable question. Our world is built on the silence that was left behind. It's constructed on top of all those empty spaces where that knowledge used to be. And that leaves us with a really unsettling thought. As a species, are we actually advancing, or are we just recovering? I mean, maybe all of our incredible progress isn't really progress at all. Maybe it's just humanity slowly, painfully climbing its way back from a terrible fall. We're recovering from a loss so profound, so total, that we've forgotten the true scale of what was lost in the first place. And that leads us to the final and maybe the most terrifying question of all. Because you see, this isn't really about the past anymore. It's about right now. Just look around. What knowledge, what ideas, what inconvenient truths are we allowing to just fade away today through neglect or fear or because someone issued a decree? What is our generation burning that our descendants are going to have to spend centuries trying to rediscover?